Hi, I'm Dr. Cordelle Ofori. I'm a public health doctor, so I'm a consultant in public health medicine based in Manchester. Today I'm going to be watching a debate that Pi Radio did about the COVID-19 vaccine and commenting on it from my professional perspective, and also giving some confirmation on the facts about the vaccine.
This whole idea of a sore arm, fatigue, feeling achy, nausea. If you've had your vaccines growing up, you'll know that those are just things that happen. There's nothing to be afraid of there because it is literally natural. We've all those of us that have vaccines have been through that. It's your body's natural immune system, nothing really to worry about. I can totally get why a lot of people who menstruate out there would be worried about the fact that their menstrual cycles have been affected by this, but then also you have to think there are so many things out there which actually do affect your menstrual cycle, which you don't blink an eye about.
So what's really been quite well described there are the really common side effects. So we know that lots of people, as part of the body's way of producing an immune reaction, may feel feverish, achy, a sore arm, feel like they've got a bit of a cold or a light flu for 3 to 4 days after they're having the vaccine. And as a gentleman has said there, that's normal. Not everybody gets it. Some people won't get any side effects at all. But if you do get those side effects, that's normal. And they are similar side effects that you can have with other vaccines as well.
Someone actually said it affects your menstrual cycle, therefore it is going to affect your fertility, and that's simply not true. I literally found multiple literature which explained FND, which actually has nothing to do with the actual vaccine. It's to do with the process of being vaccinated. It's been around for ages, and it's basically to do with when you're getting vaccinated, or it happens when you have head trauma, etc. And it's basically, forgive me, I've forgotten the science of it, but basically if you go and look into it, you can see that it's nothing to do with the actual contents of the COVID vaccine.
The RNA goes through everything and attacks every organ, but mainly sticks to women's ovaries. Concerns about fertility are based on a homology between SARS-CoV-2 spike protein and synthin 1, which is an essential protein for placental development. And that's where the mRNA is gathering, and then obviously you've got your neurological things, Bell's palsy, everything else was reported in the Pfizer trials.
There is absolutely no evidence that the vaccine damages or interferes with your fertility in any way. It doesn't affect the fertility of women, and there's no research that has shown that it makes men sterile. So from that perspective, again, all 3 vaccines have been shown to be safe. And in terms of messenger RNA, we've spoken about this a few times today, but it doesn't interfere with your genetic code. All it does is shows your body how to produce that protein, which you produce an immune response to. It's not going to interfere with your genetic code.
Now, the whole heart inflammation and blood clots, and it is an issue, which is why they noted the blood clots were in largely women who were under 30, I believe. So that's why they stopped. I think they're not giving the AstraZeneca vaccine to anyone who's below 60, unless I'm mistaken. So that there you have it, a sign of them actually responding to, they're seeing there's a problem and they're dealing with this sort of thing. So in regards to the blood clot issue, it's not even a case of, if you don't want to get a blood clot, don't take the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's a case of you're not being given the option, because if you're below a certain age, you're automatically not going to do that.
The first thing to say is that risk is actually really, really low and really, really rare. So as an example, any woman that takes a contraceptive pill, their risk of getting a blood clot from the contraceptive pill is higher than the risk of getting a blood clot from having the AstraZeneca vaccine. That being said, even though it was very rare, because it was a little bit more common in younger people than it was in older people, a decision was made not to offer the AstraZeneca vaccine to younger people. So people under the age of 40 will not be offered the AstraZeneca vaccine. They will either be offered Pfizer or Moderna. So as has been described in the debate, if you're under 40, you don't need to be concerned about that anyway, because you won't be offered the AstraZeneca vaccine. If you're over 40, but you have some concerns, perhaps because you've had a blood clot in the past, or you have some disorder that means that you're at higher risk of getting blood clots, then I just suggest you have a conversation with your GP or the specialist that's looking after you before you make a decision about the vaccine and which vaccine to have.
NHS nurses that now can't walk, and they're getting gaslit by the same institutions that they believe that they worked for the past 20 years, and they're getting told, no, you've got epilepsy, you've got FND, you're just stressed. And this is an NHS nurse who is absolutely devastated and cannot walk. So she feels like she's getting gaslit left, right and centre. So if you look at the symptoms of COVID, you've got someone who just has no symptoms, so you're completely blessed. You've got someone who's got a runny nose, a cough, or a consistent cold. None of those risks outweigh a possible issue with your womb, a possible issue with death. The risks don't outweigh. Obviously, you can still die from COVID. I'm not trying to deny that. But the survival rate still, for anyone under 60, is 99.96%.
So the gentleman has rightly said that some people don't get any symptoms at all and they're completely fine and well and wouldn't even know if they had COVID unless they had a test. Some people get a mild illness like having a cold, runny nose, cough, sore throat, bit of a headache, perhaps for a week or two, and it goes away. What he didn't mention are other scenarios that are more serious than that, even for people who don't necessarily die from the illness. So one of them is getting COVID really badly. So the people who end up in hospital and COVID affects their breathing, their hearts, their kidneys, their liver. It's a really horrible, horrible disease. And if you have a conversation with anybody who's had it that badly and been in hospital for weeks on end with it, they will tell you just how awful an illness it is. And doctors and nurses who've had to treat people who've had it really seriously as well would tell you about that. The other thing then is long COVID. So that's people who have had the initial COVID illness. Perhaps they didn't have many symptoms. They might have had it really mildly. They may be young, they may be old. But for weeks and sometimes months after that, they're still not right. They get tired really easily. They're not as fit as they used to be. Some people struggle to walk up the stairs, or they can't, walk to the shop or walk to the end of their road. They get a brain fog, so you can't think clearly. Their mood can get really low. They can get depressed. They can struggle with their breathing. There are so many symptoms that you can get with long COVID. And at the moment, it looks like, regardless of whether you had COVID mildly the first time or severely, anybody can get long COVID, and young people can get it as well as older people. So that's a really important consequence of getting COVID that people need to be aware of, and that includes young people as well.